All right. Today, I would like to show you how we are going to create Mr. Philip's awesome game of Pong. Here's my splash screen. I'm going to play the game here. This is what we're going to be creating today. I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to create a basic version of Pong. So we'll head over to scratch.mit.edu and let's create a new project. We're creating a new project. And the first thing I like to do, you guys know this, we're going to get rid of this sprite. So click on the garbage can and let's get rid of this cat. Now we're starting with a fresh slate. We need a couple of sprites to get started here. So head on down to a choose sprite. We're going to choose a ball and we're going to choose a paddle. The paddle you might want to type in. We're going to choose the paddle. And then we are going to be making a few more sprites, and we'll be doing that by painting them. But the first thing we're going to do, since we have our paddle here selected, we are going to program our paddle. So we are going to start this game on space bar. Now that is an event. When the space key is pressed, we want our paddle to move forever left and right. So control, grab the forever, and we're going to throw in two if-then statements. So we want to move to the left. We want to move to the right. So if we move to the right, so sensing, when the key right is pressed, we want to change X by 10. Now, over here, I want you to imagine coordinates. So X is the horizontal axis, and Y is going to be the vertical axis. And you're going to imagine that there is a coordinate system on here. I'm lost for words for what that is called. I'm not a math teacher, and now it escapes me now that I'm doing this recording. I can't remember the proper name for that, but you can see we've got down here, we have X and Y coordinates. So when we move or push the right arrow key, we are going to change X by 10. So if I push my space bar, I'm going to the right by 10. But if I push my left arrow key, nothing is happening. So what we need to do is we need to program that if we if we press the left arrow key, we also need to move by 10. But if you know your X and Y axis, moving to the right is positive. So moving to the left is going to be what? It's going to be negative. So we're going to move 10 steps, but it's going to be a negative 10 steps to the left. So let's test that out. And you can see I'm moving to the left and I am moving to the right. Okay, that's awesome. Next thing, we're going to click on our ball sprite and we're going to have the ball move. So again, we're going to play this using the space bar. So event when space key is pressed, we want to point in a direction. So we're going to find our motion point in direction, and let's pick 45 degrees for now. And forever, that's a control. Forever, we want the ball to move at a speed of 10. So the same speed at which we put our paddle. And if it touches an edge, we want it to bounce. So let's see what this looks like. Edge, edge, and edge, and it's bouncing off of the edges, which is exactly what we want. But nothing right now is happening in terms of the ball interacting with the paddle. So now we have to program what happens when the ball touches the paddle. So this is going to be an if-then statement again. So under control, we're going to grab the if-then, slide it under the if on edge bounce within the forever loop. So if it senses the paddle, so if it's touching the paddle, so grab that, switch mouse pointer to paddle, what do we want to do? Well, we want the ball to bounce off of the paddle. So what we're going to do is from motion, we want it to turn. I'm going to pick and give you some numbers here. We want it to turn between 160 to 200 degrees. Think of a circle. What a circle has, it's 300 degrees or 360 degrees. So this is going to be between 160 and 200 degrees because you'll see that it's going to look like this. See how it bounces off of the paddle? Okay. Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. Okay. The goal of Pong is to kind of win and see how long you can keep this ball bouncing off of the paddle. So we need something maybe here on the bottom or on the top. We're going to make a KillZone right now. So to make our KillZone, what we need to do is create another sprite. This sprite is going to be painted, and I get this little paint editor. I'm going to pick a color for my kill zone, and I like red for my kill zone. I'm going to create a box, and I am going to draw my box just like that. Okay. And one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my kill zone is actually centered. So I'm going to drag it so that snaps into this crosshair right there. When I do that, you're going to notice that my kill zone on the stage is way up here. We don't want that. What we actually want is the kill zone to be further down here on the bottom. And this is where those X and Y coordinates come into play. So if I click on the stage and I drag my kill zone to the bottom, I see that the X and Y coordinates are changing. We're going to program this. So I'm going to move this back up, and I'm going to go into the code for my kill zone. And for this one, my event is going to be green flag because I'm setting my game on green flag. So when the green flag is pushed, I want my kill zone to go to X0, so the center, but down at the bottom, so negative 170. Let's try that and see what happens. Okay, so I've set it, and that's where it goes. I push spacebar, and now my game is starting to play. So let's see what happens when I hit the kill zone. Nothing is happening. It's bouncing off of my kill zone. We don't want that. We want the ball to interact with that kill zone. So we're going to go back to our ball sprite, and we're going to program what happens when we touch the kill zone. So that is an if-then statement again. Drag the if-then statement underneath the other if-then statement. If we're touching the kill zone, what should happen? So we're going to go down. This one says sprite 1. We're going to actually fix that in a minute here. But if touching right now sprite 1, I want everything to stop. So we're going to hit stop all. Let's see if this works. So push spacebar. And now it's stopped. Excellent. That's what I want. Head back over to the sprite 1. Call it KillZone. And now it's going to change its name. So now we have KillZone. Okay. So if I go back to the ball, I'll see that if it's touching the kill zone, it's going to stop all. But we have noticed our paddle is a little bit too high. It's not a good spot for our paddle. So we're going to program our paddle to go further down. So let's say right, I don't know, roughly right there. Okay. So I'm going to throw in a code so that when I push the space bar, I want my paddle to go to an X and Y coordinate. But instead of adding it to the space, I want to be when we set the game. So anytime I set the game, like when you're setting a chess game or whatnot, I like to set it with a green flag. So when I push the green flag, I actually want this paddle to go to the middle. So X0 and negative, let's go 140 because it says 141. Let's try it 140 and let's see what happens. Now my paddle is right in the middle. We should also probably set our ball to a certain point. So click on ball, and when we push the green flag, we want our ball to be set right to the middle. So the middle of the screen is actually 0 and 0. So let's see what happens now. There it is. Okay. Now, when I play this, it bounces. But when I play this, you see what's happening to the ball each time? It's always going to the same spot of the screen because we programmed the ball to go to the point and direction 45 degrees, which is into this corner here. We don't want that. It would be much more fun if what we did is we randomly picked a direction. So from 0 to 360, because that's how many degrees are in a circle. So now when I push spacebar, I don't know when or where I should say the ball is going. So now it's going up, now it's going up, now it's going up, now it's going down. And we want to add that little element of surprise. But how fast is this thing going? Does this give us enough time to react to the ball? I got a little bit of a glitch there. But does that give us enough time to react to the ball? Maybe, maybe not. What we should add, just to make things easier and more fair for the player, under controls, after it gets ready, let's have it wait 1 second. So we get our player a little bit of time to kind of get ready and play this game. These are the basics of the one-player Pong. Another thing that you could add is you could add a score to this game. So we'll do that next by adding a variable. I'm going to delete this variable because I want this to be clear so you can see it. We're going to make a new variable. We're going to call it score. It's for all sprites, and we're going to hit OK. And we see we have a little score counter up here. And every time that the ball hits the paddle, we want the score to go up by 1. So if we're touching the paddle, we want it to bounce and then change score by 1. So let's see what happens here. So I'm going to, I got a little bit of a glitch there. We're going to fix that. That happens. Okay. Oh, I died there. I'm not very good at my own game that I made. But we're bouncing and doing this and whatnot. But if we stop this, when we start the game again, we'll notice that the score is still at 22, which is not what we want. So when the ball is being set to the middle, we should probably also set the score back to 0. So every time we hit the green flag, and I got that glitch, but every time we hit the green flag, the score resets itself. See? And I would die here. My score is 2. When I hit the green flag, it gets reset to 0. So this is the basic Pong game that we make together in class. We've done a KillZone, we've done a paddle, we've done a ball. In the previous video, I showed you how to make a splash screen. We should also have a splash screen here. But then your challenge now becomes, well, how can we make this game more fun? Well, maybe you can add some music. Maybe you can add some sound effects. So do you want some background music? That's something to think about. If you do want background music, the best place to program that is going to be on your stage. If you want some sound effects, like let's say when the ball touches the paddle, let's say, for example, you would put a sound in here if touching paddle. If you want something to make a noise, or if you want the ball to make a noise when it touches the kill zone, you would add that here as well. That's a good thing to have. And maybe, perhaps making this a 2-player game. If you wanted to make this a 2-player game, what are some of the things that you would do, right? You would need a second kill zone, probably up here, and you would need a second paddle as well. So that's something definitely you can do to challenge yourself. It's what we do in class to challenge ourselves. So try that out and see how it goes.